私の大好きな TED の TEDx のイベントが福岡で開催されることに、感謝と敬意を表して英語でさせていただきたいと思いますので、申し訳ありませんけれども日本語の方がいい方はトランシーバーをつけてください。それでは、いただいた題はですね、My Life After Kobe Earthquake です。My Life After Kobe Earthquake. This is something that I'm actually not very good at speaking about. But given this opportunity today, I would like to share with you my experience and how it reshaped my life and career thereafter. When I speak about my experience in Kobe, I would first have to start out by speaking about my husband, who is also here today. I believe he will speak later, but he will never speak about his own experience, so I think I'd start from there on his behalf. My husband was professor at Kobe University when the earthquake happened. And the first thing that the school did was to identify the safety of the students and the staff. So they would find out whether the students were safe, have they evacuated, have they been injured, whether their families were okay, and so on. But after a few days, in order to search for the ones who were still missing, the teachers and the faculty staff would split into districts of the city, and they would be searching to the places where their street addresses were. And they would be holding stacks of photographs, enlarged photographs, photocopies of the student ID cards. And he would go to the addresses, but of course in many cases, the apartments would be already torn down, completely broken down, so they would not be found there. So he would ask the fire department, he would ask the police, he would go to the designated evacuation centers, ask the people if they had seen this face on the photo. But eventually, he would be guided to a designated area or building where the bodies had been carried into and rested. You know what I mean, right? And there, the bodies would be lined up and laid down, and they would have handkerchiefs and cloths covered on their faces. And he would uncover the faces, lift the cloths one by one to check if the faces would match the faces he had on the photo ID card. And unfortunately, the students he was looking for were found there, all of them. So what we did next was, this is where I joined, was that, we went back to the remains of the apartment houses and tried to find some things, anything in memory, so that we can hand them to the families when they arrive. And we went to some of the apartment houses, and underneath the crashed roof and the ceiling and the wall and the kotatsu, we found textbooks and notebooks and so many things that probably these students must have been studying until the very moment of the earthquake. And when I was pulling out some of these notebooks with so much handwriting, they were studying English, they were studying chemistry, the moment I picked them up, the first emotion which struck me was anger. And I'm not trying to dramatize this at all, but I want to say this because I'm speaking in a university today, that these students, and some were international students, they came to Japan, they studied in Kobe University, and after 16 years, if they were alive today, can you please imagine the important roles that they would have been playing in any international business or law or politics or whatever. And they're all gone. 50 of them, 50 students and staff gone, just like that. So I think that was my starting point. Immediately after this, I returned to Tokyo. I decided to leave my job, which I had in Tokyo, and move back to Kobe permanently. I knew that I couldn't waste my time. I didn't know what I was supposed to do yet, but I had a sense that I had to be there and be part of a progress that was supposed to happen thereafter the earthquake. But of course, living in Kobe in the aftermath of the earthquake was quite challenging itself. In the district where we lived, over 90% of the houses were either entirely or partly damaged. So you have a picture of what that town looked like when we lived there. And of course, there were signs of hope and prosperity and happiness, but in between, there were moments of despair and frustration and sadness, and of course, the aftershocks. So I can't generalize the pain, but on top of everything, I was able to sense, and I think we were all able to sense, a visible progress of recovery that everyone could relate to and sort of cling onto. Another thing I noticed was that even though this was a natural disaster, it did not hit the people equally. Some were more vulnerable than others. Some areas, some buildings, some people were damaged more severely than others, and some recovered faster than others. And I realized that issues related to perhaps disaster planning, disaster mitigation, preparedness, planning, had to be addressed on a policy level. And there were limitations to what I could do as an individual volunteer. So eventually, this became my area of interest, and decided to pursue urban policies in graduate school. But in between everything that was happening in the city, as a Kobe citizens, where we lived for almost 7 years after the earthquake, there was so much help from everywhere, and we knew that we were being helped. And even though the place we lived in, our house was okay actually. It stood still, even though the furniture was everywhere. We had help from everywhere, and even though we had no gas, no gas and no water for over 3 months, and there was construction everywhere, and even during the night there was drilling on the streets, and it was quite noisy during the night too. But we knew that these people were coming from Kobe, from elsewhere, to help day and night so hard, so nobody complained. Nobody complained. I was so thankful for so many things that were given to me, and so much help that was extended to me. And in many cases, I had no clue where this help came from. Then I began to realize that, or began to think that, even though that I will probably not be able to thank each and every person that provided us help, that I would somehow be able to respond by helping others or helping other countries in need, especially in time of disasters. Which would result in somehow maybe I would be able to respond or reciprocate to the help that was extended to us. And I had to find a job that I would be able to do such things, and perhaps the United Nations was a solution, and here I am today. So in very short summary, that was my story of my life after the earthquake. 16 years have passed, and I am very thankful today that I am involved in many projects that relate to disaster recovery, many man-made disasters, many natural disasters, which you will hear later from my colleague, Chloe. And I'm still in the process of reciprocating. So I don't want to look back yet and say, gee, I've come this far. No, I'm not here yet. But I'm very thankful today that I am in this world, and I am able to participate in such a meaningful event like this one, to be able to think and put our hearts and heads together to think about how we can rebuild better lives for the people affected by the Tohoku earthquake. This is something that I could never have done if I had not gone through the experience myself. Thank you very much for listening to my story. どうもありがとうございました。